Welcome to another episode of the Metal Roundup, your one-stop shop to catch up on what's been going on in the metal music scene here. And we have the usuals in Drew Fortune, myself, and Metalbird. But we also have a special guest today in the form of Chase Carneson. Chase, welcome. How are we doing? How are we feeling?
Man, doing good. Oh, look at that. I got an audience, huh?
So loud as well.
Yeah, doing good, man. Good.
Great. Love to have you with us. At some point, we have some vague things we might talk about. There's been some Billboard Awards recently. Sleep Token won some kind of hard rock award, which confused me. Might get into that. Other bits and pieces going on in the scene. And we'll talk about what's been interesting us in the music world as well of late. But to start, perhaps we can get to know our guest, Chase, a little more. And before we do that, I'd love to pay you a really strange compliment.
I'm ready.
Because you have an excellent skill that I also have, but I don't think I have it quite as good as you do.
Is it a speech impediment?
No. You barely ever say the word and it blows my mind.
Yeah, that's been conditioned. I worked in the news for a long time, so was not allowed. If you ummed too much, you lost your presenting slot. And I was banned for a while, so yeah, you can try and make yourself sound and look a little better than you actually are. So I guess that's probably it.
It's hard work. It's really difficult. But it makes you sound so collected and you know every single word. And then I find myself when I'm watching your content waiting on every word. Like, this is going to be so considered. There might be like a 10-second gap. And then you say something like, this is fucking amazing. Yeah. Impressive.
Buy me a drink first.
Yeah, I hope you both know that I'm going to be hyper focused on Chase and Steve now.
I know,
Steve,
right?
You included yourself in that as well, so I'm going to be all over that.
Yeah,
it's something I've had to work on over time.
Yeah, it's definitely a good skill, man. Chase is very good. From the me and Chase, I feel like this is the first time we've spoken, right, Chase?
Yeah, we've had like some online engagements. I think we all have at some point, but nothing like formal, no.
Yeah. I think Sleep Token was probably the mutual band that we'd maybe. I think that was the first time I'd stumbled across your content. It was around The Offering when I started. I think we kind of checked it out around the same time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was weird. Like I feel like I got into Sleep Token like through my other half now, but what I considered to be early on, and I was trying to get everyone on board. It's like, hey, you got to hear this, and they're like, nah. I think the first one I heard was Jaws.
Yeah.
Jaws is
good times, man.
Sleep Token has united all of us, clearly. Yep. That's how
we could be Sleep Token.
Well. Yeah, don't tell everyone.
I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there.
Which one's Vessel?
Not me. I'm too short and thick. Ain't no way I'm going to be cool
I'm
with my
not
shirt
ripped.
open like that playing a piano.
Probably
Drew?
Yeah, it's Drew.
Really?
You're the skinniest of us, I think.
Excuse me, Steve?
That's a good way of
I'll
putting
take
it.
You know, I'll take the Vessel compliment and just forget about the skinny part, you know? Sorry.
Yes. So Chase, what inspired you to start your YouTube channel however many years ago that you started? What was the impetus there?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was around the pandemic time. I think that's probably going to be the case for a lot of people. I had given thoughts about doing it. I'd had discussions with people who were like, hey, you should give this a go. You should really try this. And it was in the UK at the time. Pandemic hit. A lot of people weren't able to work. They were on furlough, things like that. I was trying to figure it out. And I was like, I got some extra time. I can't sit still. I may as well give it a go. So there I was in what looked like an insane asylum, just like white sheets, white walls, white ceiling, me sitting on the end of a bed talking about music, hoping people would listen. So glad I did, but it was more out of the opportunity of having free time than it was kind of anything else. I'd always loved music. I'd been in a band for a long while. And ironically, I'd probably been quite distant from the music scene until that point, and that was kind of a way back into it.
Interesting.
Do you know, I'm not dissimilar. I spent most of my 20s touring in bands. And then when I had to decide to have a more serious lifestyle in order to afford, I don't know, a house one day, because the music industry is brutal, I sort of distanced myself from music a bit to not feel the pain of not being able to sort of pursue that. And then the channels made me have to dive back into it. And I'm going to gigs all the time, and it's fucking great. What was your first video? Do you remember?
I think it was a Paris video or something like that. I think I was outside. It's actually outside filming that one. I thought it was a great idea, believe it or not, to put like a table outside and film this video, which was an absolute disaster because all you can hear is birds. So like to this day, anyone who found that is like, they just like tweet. That's all I get in the comments. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So like, if I can, when I go back to England, I filmed it at a buddy's house, and I was like, I got to go back and just do one more from there and just put in fake bird sounds like as loud as I can. But yeah, I think it was a Paris song. I can't remember particularly what it was. It wasn't my first listen to them, but it was weird because that, if you ask me now, that would kind of be the last band. I didn't have a structure or a premise. I didn't really know what people were doing in the reaction scene. I didn't know there was a reaction scene. I had seen like really popular reactors, like, you know, No Life Shack, for example, or whatever, like in the larger entertainment hip hop space. That's what I was familiar with. And so I just picked bands that whatever jumped into my head, or if someone told me there was a song and I was like, I'll give it a look. So that's kind of how I went about it. I didn't know there was, I guess nowadays there's probably a formula for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is there?
Well,
yeah.
see,
I guess
you see like people who start nowadays, and I'm not trying to knock on anybody, but like, it's like, it's all Nightwish and it's all Ginger and it's all like, I think there's a blueprint for like how to get attention on your channel. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but I've seen a few of those, and some of them are really good and some of them are different.
Different. Yeah, but I mean, in my experience, the Nightwish and the rest, that finds you. I don't think anyone looks at that as a template and goes, oh, I'll do that. I think those folks will find you channels and be like, you got to hear Nightwish. And then you're like, oh, hey, I got a lot of views off that. Maybe I'll do another one. And then unless you like Nightwish, which is very possible people do.
Sure.
You know, you might go, I'll just do them. Oh no, I'm not going to do them because then I have to just spend my time listening to Nightwish.
Yeah, it gets tricky. I think it's like, you know, when you start something, I mean, I'd be a complete hypocrite to say that when I filmed my first video that got any kind of what I would have deemed to be traction back then. It's exciting. Like you go, how do I replicate that? How do I do it again? So it's certainly not a knock. I think there's a way you can kind of fall into that process, if you will. But I do think, you know, and then you learn that the minute you deviate from that, you get certain backlash from that as well, and you got to navigate that space. But it's all part of the thing. It's all excited, and it comes down to people just loving music. Like I don't think it comes from a negative or hurtful space primarily. I think it's mostly because I was very grateful at the time that people cared enough to trade any amount of minutes to watch what I was doing. So there's your first time. I enjoyed it.
And how much of the metal universe were you plugged into before you started your channel? Or did you find some heavier stuff through your channel?
It's strange because I actually was familiar with like a lot of bands, but not a lot of bands that I explored throughout my channel. So when I was touring and when I was playing guitar in a band, I was in South Africa, in Johannesburg, very small scene, did some cool tours with the likes of Haste the Day and Underoath and bands like that came out. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was amazing. Horse the Band was one of my favorites. Such a weird name to put in there, but love going on.
They're cool. They're
the coolest, the absolute coolest. But I was plugged into, I guess, what you would deem back then to be more the metalcore scene, like that kind of thing. And then there were a lot of bands that it's hard. And I've spoken about this in reactions. You go, I've never heard this before. And it's very possible I was in a club or something or a venue, and I'm pretty sure Nightwish came on at some point, but I wasn't sitting down listening to it. I have no recollection of it. So there was a lot of that. And then I got it from a lot of friends who were trying to get me into it back then. Like, now you got a YouTube channel. Now you're listening to it. So it's quite fun. But that was largely it. And then of late, I've kind of looked at the music lens to be not metal, not genre specific. It's whatever. So I record all my stuff on Twitch. I don't record anything off of a live stream. So I'll just pick and choose what I record, and it's open to whatever. So it can be jazz from the 60s. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've actually noticed you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you started live streaming on Twitch pretty recently, or I guess in the more, I don't know if you've done it before, like years ago, or whatever. But have you been finding that in terms of, I guess, comparing that to sitting down, planning a video, and I guess if you want, if there's any dead air, you can cut it out. How have you found the transition into like the live portion of reactions?
I really like it. This is going to be a little bit of a deep take on it as well, but sure. I have quite severe, and I mean very severe OCD, to the point where for the most part it's fine and it's controlled and it's okay, but when I'm in my own head about something in a room, trying to make sure that I pronounce every syllable of every part of every word in a particular way, not correctly, but in the way that I need to hear it in my head, I could sit there for 15-20 minutes repeating an intro. I would never allow it to get into the song, because then you're ruining the experience. But the intro itself, I could spend 25 minutes. So sometimes it was very draining for me. So going into the live elements where it's just do it, and if you fumble and bumble your way through, it's okay. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Be less hard on myself. So that part of the live streaming thing I've loved. And I have a full-time job, so I can actually like focus and go, I'm going to put an hour and a half. And if I get a recording out of it, great. If I get 4, awesome. And then I have a backlog of stuff to edit. So it's never going to be perfect. I'm not going to pick everything up in necessarily the way that I'd like to. And I'm certainly not going to have the volume that other people do, but I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a relatable point, because only there over the last couple of days I've been doing my like end of year videos to try and get my like top 10 of whatever it is. And like you were saying, when you're on Twitch, when you have the footage from after it, the footage exists and that's it. You know, your first reaction's there, you can't change that. So you're just forced to adapt, and like that is the content now. Whereas like you said, when you have the opportunity to just stop and start, you end up overthinking it too much. And it's like, realistically, no one's going to analyze this as much as I am or you am, you know, in your own content. So I find myself like trying to get the perfect take, and I'm like, ultimately this is completely void for the most part, unless there's something really specific that you maybe brush over when you're talking. But like for the most part, I really relate to that as well.
Yeah, I've noticed like when I make videos that are like really edited with so many cuts and different things, people don't really notice in the comments. They're just saying like, oh yeah, this is like one of my favorite songs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Or I could just take like a raw Twitch recording, just put that on YouTube too, and then it'll be the exact same comments. So sure, maybe people are like kind of noticing, but I think people are just there for like the actual content itself. So yeah, Twitch recordings are such a lifesaver, man.
And they I said this before, and I'm probably regurgitating something we've all said in some capacity, but people watch reactions, at least I believe, so they can't recreate that initial first listen for themselves. So the next closest thing they can have is to experience it through somebody else. And they often seek out people that they see parts of themselves in, whether it's humor, entertainment, hair, it doesn't matter. People will latch onto whatever. So my lesson to myself was kind of stop being so hard on yourself, because even when there are videos where I watch back and I pick up something really small that I hate. I mean, it just irks me in the editing. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe, how am I going to edit this? And then you find people just positively speaking about it. I do that, or whatever the thing is. So I've learned to be less hard on myself, and you've got to be careful, because you can get to a point where it almost comes across that you don't care, which is of course not the case, but it's a fine line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I find that like what really makes that stem out is the constant battle between just nonchalantly talking about something that I'm passionate about and thinking about the YouTube algorithm. Because if I'm doing an intro for a video, for example, I'm like, okay, I want to get my point across here, but I also want to cater to this like TikTok, or not even just TikTok, but YouTube in general as well, where it's like, okay, well, in the first 20 seconds, are people going to be clicking off? Sometimes I just want to sit and chat, you know, and I would imagine for the most part, the core audience is definitely going to want a little bit more chatting as opposed to just, hey guys, here we go. Because ultimately anyone can just do the, hey guys, let's go, you know. But I guess the personality side of things is where you can really come out when you really think things out. So that's where I find most of my like hesitation is with some of my intros, where I'm like, okay, I either just let it fly. So with Twitch, I find that like you're just chatting away anyway, and it's not like a planned out thing for me. So sometimes it's a little bit more organic, but yeah, it's when you're offline, sometimes I find it really hard to lock in and just be yourself, because you're thinking too much about the YouTube side of things, you know.
That's my dilemma all the time, Drew.
Yeah.
You
everyone just
spend,
probably
like,
experiences this.
You can spend, like I said, anywhere between 5 and 25 minutes getting this intro out, only for someone to click past it because they're hovering over where the thumbnail
like,
starts.
where's the song?
Like, and that's not wrong. You know, if that's what they want out of it, it's great. Go and get it. I think it's cool. It's a unique thing. I think the reaction scene, for lack of a better phrase, I hate using the word scene, but for lack of a better phrase, the reaction world, the way people watch reactions, I believe, if we're doing our job right, whether your focus of your channel is entertainment, whether the focus is helping people understand music slightly better or connecting with lyrics, or whatever the focus is, if we're doing our job right, then we're educating and uplifting the people who watch regularly. And so the expectation of what you deliver becomes exponential. And then you've got to be careful, because if you, in the beginning, I was quite focused on trying to pick up and what I call active listening, pull things apart that are designed to be stitched together and finding little moments. And it was never designed for musicians. There's lots of people far more intelligent than me speaking at a much higher level. But I know there's a big gap between people who listen to music recreationally and have never touched instruments and people who are crazy good guitar teachers. So in between those two things is a really nice gap of people who love music and would appreciate just a little bit of knowledge to love it a bit more. And if you focus too much on that individual thing, it's like there's only so much you can talk about palm muting, for God's sake, before somebody throws up. So you do your best to explore these things differently. The beauty of doing something like that, I've found, is that I'm not writing the songs. So I'm working with what's given to me as best I can, whatever that looks like. And I think I'm lucky in that sense, because if my channel was focused on something else, I would find it far harder to evolve that based on whatever the song was.
How do you feel like the reaction scene has evolved over the years since we started? Because we've been at it for many years now, and like it feels like it's almost like music journalism in a way, right? So
there's two things. One, I think it's evolved tremendously, and I'll tell you how. And in one way, I wish it would evolve a whole lot more. In the first instance, I think from a production point of view and from what reactors offer in value to bands, labels, from a marketing perspective, that's my gig. I work in marketing. I've been doing it for a very long time at a very high level. And the value, you cannot, these bands would, I don't care how big they are, they would not be able to afford the reach that is provided by channels like yours. It's an expensive gig to buy and boost media. And I think what the reaction channels have done just on a ground level is increase the production, increase the quality, increase the expectation, and bring a whole lot more eyes to people, to music in general. So I think the evolution is everybody has found, at least the names that I know, you guys and a whole bunch more, have found very unique ways to keep entertaining people, especially during the pandemic. That's when everything really, at least that I noticed, kicked off in a tremendous way. But one way that I think the reaction scene, if you will, I'd like to evolve. I'm really lucky that I do not rely on YouTube at all for income. I have a full-time job, so I'm awarded the freedom to say what I'm about to say. So please understand it's through that lens. I wish that the reaction scene would operate much like any other industry, where there's so many amazing content creators at the moment that I wish everyone would kind of band together. I think reactors are being hard done by from how YouTube operates, from how fair use is implemented, and from how some labels allow profit to be made off of what I deem to be very valuable contribution to content, to music, to bringing people in. And that hasn't happened yet, I don't believe. I know there's a lot of really good labels who are amazing to work with, so I'm not speaking to them, but it almost sounds like I'm talking about a union here, which I'm not. But there are a lot of, maybe I am, there are a lot of industries. You look at, I'm a big UFC fan. There's a lot of talk around fighter pay. There's one way to fix that, and that's if everybody, big and small, says, we don't like the way this works. And so that's something, I don't know how that looks or what it is, but I really would like platforms like YouTube to start being a little bit more fair to people who have put in the hours, the work, and deserve the results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I mean, we even had a kind of brief conversation, myself, Steve, and Burb, just in the in our little Discord chat there earlier about our, like, again, just going back to the end of year videos and stuff. If we're like doing a top 10 video to showcase our best moments, you know, we're using 5-second clips of a song that we've built so much content around, where I'm speaking of, this is the reasoning from a musical standpoint and an entertainment standpoint and just a personal preference standpoint, and it's so organically my own content, but I'm using a 5-second snippet from 10 different songs that I'm referring to and doing so much research on, and I've listened to so many times and I'm knowledgeable on. And then I know it's like an automation thing, so I guess there's so many ways you could spin this conversation, but It's just funny that you bring that up, because we only had that quick conversation earlier where the content from an entertainment standpoint, I think, has to take such a massive hit, because we're forced to kind of work within the boundaries of which label is you know, we've got a contact with, or which labels we're playing ball with, or who are playing ball with us, I guess, where, you know, like, if the whole video will be demonetized or we can't earn anything from it, which wouldn't be much anyway, because we've used a 4-second, 5-second clip of a song that we've already done a minute of talking about in great detail, because it's not transformative, because just the automation. So yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because it's such a It's a weird one because I see both ends of it. We've talked about it a lot before.
I think I'm slightly, sorry, just to quickly interject, I think I'm slightly ignorant on that because, like I said, I don't rely on it for income. I only started monetizing this year after all the years of doing it. I was in the UK on a visa and no additional income was permitted. So I wasn't allowed to earn any money for the majority. So I'm probably not speaking from a place of education on it, but so take that into consideration. But from an outsider's perspective, seeing how much work I put in, whatever level that is, knowing that creators like all of you put in infinitely more, it does feel like a hard deal.
It's quite wild in a lot of ways. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today, and I put together my album rankings for the year and EP rankings, and it's like 10 seconds of clip, which is within the YouTube guidelines of fair use of like, it is to serve, I mean, as review and commentary to illustrate the points you're making. That is acceptable use, 100%. And there's one particular, I guess, publishing company that reject all of my disputes are like, no, for all the reactions, just absolutely no. And this one, they were like, yeah, no, this is totally fair use. And they let me have it. But then one other one went, no, I don't think so. Just rejected it, which means we might end up in a position where I use fairly small clips for the purpose of review of, say, 20 to 25 different pieces of copyright material. One of the people or publishers might decide to not play ball, and then they get all the proceeds from this video. All the other labels correctly went like, no, this is fair use, this is fine. And you know what? They're going to end up with the £5, no joke, that I would otherwise have. It's like, why are we fighting these battles? And it's interesting. We're still on a bit of an early phase of the content that we're making. It is very new still and not that well understood. So we're trying to help figure out and carve the path through it. And there are forward-thinking people in media, in labels, and the rest who understand that, see the benefit that they're clearly getting that is outsized on the amount of money that they're not getting from like the tiny bits of advertising you get on YouTube. But there's always, as in any new industry, going to be the bigger dogs being like, we don't have to play with this. We're just going to say, no, what the fuck are you going to do? And they're eventually going to look silly for that and see what they're missing out on. And it's going to work eventually. But yeah, it's going to unfortunately take a bit of time. And what is difficult, I think, is that certainly for newer channels, this is a much, much harder battle. Mm-hmm. Because if someone of the level of a Nick Nocturnal says, well, listen, I have this reaction to your content, but it's copyright claimed. I won't put the reaction out unless you lift it. You bet that same day they'll lift the copyright because the massive publicity they can get from that. But that scenario is not helping the ones who are trying to do this and figure this out on the way up as well, and who are offering probably different ways of connecting people and maybe in more meaningful ways as well in other ways. It's quite complicated, but we're fighting the fight. And sometimes you just go, today, no, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to work with I'm going to make whatever content I'm going to make anyway. I'm not adjusting my rankings depending on which labels that I happen to have a relationship with, because I don't see the value in that. But it's frustrating. And sometimes you have to go, you know what? Today I'll just be a little bit frustrated, but I'll put out my video and maybe I can't monetize that one. But like, it's baby steps.
If there's anybody that's listening that's like wants to be a reactor, don't expect to make money in your first year or even second year. And people who go with that attitude, it's weird. I've gotten like hit up before, like by someone who just started doing reaction videos, like, oh, do you have a label to Century Media? I'm like, oh, it feels weird to give it to you. I'm like I don't know. Like, I think you have to work your way up, earn some respect, and then build up an audience, and then there you can start working your magic. And yeah, there's still a lot of good labels, but yeah, it's still, they're behind the times a little bit. But I like what you said, Chase, about like the marketing aspect, and you have a marketing background, because I do too, because we were having this conversation last time with Orion, who provides a lot of value over TikTok too. And he does have like this service if you want to like expedite and get your content out in front of people, he does. There's money involved, but like he has such a big following that it's actually cheaper to go with someone like him than do a typical ad manager, Google ads or something. So, it's still a new thing. And I like what we're doing here in educating not just labels, but actually like people online, because there's still a stigma with reaction content. So
yeah, I potentially must, if YouTube's got an award for the slowest growing channel, I think I'd have it. I think they got to give it up to me. I don't know what kind of plaque they got, but it's because it's a hobby for me, right? Like it's almost ironic. I have all this information and decades of experience in how to market something, content and services and whatever else, but I don't use it on the channel because then I'm kind of bringing work into this thing that's like a creative fun outlet for me. So I just put stuff out there and I throw it out and I hope people enjoy it, whoever watches it. And I really am like, I'm in a very cool place where I'm very lucky to be in the States now, living with my wife. We just bought a place. I'm super happy. And YouTube is just that, a creative outlet for me that I get to have fun. And the more fun I've had as I've evolved, I think my personality, who I am, is I'm normally full of shit and I'm overly serious in the past, but a bit more of the humor's come into things and people don't like it sometimes. They're like, oh, I miss the analytical, serious stuff. I'm like, I don't. That's my stuff.
Yeah,
So,
you got to have fun doing it. Make it sustainable for you. And the reason you've ended up with the channel you have is because people have liked you doing what you've been naturally inspired to do yourself. The more you are following the thing you enjoy, that is what will pull people in. And like you say, when did you start your channel? You got 76,000.
I was just about to say 76,000.
Fucking loads. Dude, that's twice what
no,
I've got.
it's amazing. It's amazing. But I can't tell you when I started. I can go and have a look. I'll look quickly and I'll let you know. But basically, I think I jumped up pretty quick. Like I was really, I got like a nice quick surge and things. And I do know that not being in the monetization program, the YouTube partner program, stints your growth quite significantly. I know a lot of people who work at Google and at YouTube, and I won't go into any specific details around the brands I work with because I'd rather not. But the you know what I'm talking about. You don't want to mention, especially if it's brands people know. You want to stay out of it. But sure. I know that can have its effects. I think I started here. It is April 2020, and there was a really big surge around until March, April 2021, and then pretty much just very slow, very consistent, which I'm happy with. It's not I'd be lying if I was like, not like, that 100K plaque would be cool. It'd be great, but it's not like a thing I live and breathe for. But I do know that there's certain things that kind of prohibit you. Like I don't post that often. I don't have a schedule. So I know that being regular and putting out, episodic themed content, if you will, is what they would call it, is very beneficial. And that's like the other thing. It's funny you asked about like how have reaction channels evolved. I mean, I've often thought down the line of putting together a video like for people who want to start channels like that. I went and bought a camera recently, and the first thing I did was Google and YouTube search the different lenses and models and watched a bunch of people's takes. I thought, how cool it would be if you're starting your channel and there were a bunch of videos on, these are the 5 things I wish I knew when I started. And it was almost like just not giving anyone anything, but just helping them not make some very obvious mistakes that they don't need to. And maybe there isn't something in that for that. I haven't thought more about it, but it might be helpful.
That's a great video idea. Do it before someone else takes it.
You guys can have it. I'm
we should make a course. Let's make a course, guys.
We all do it
only
now.
$3,000. How to be?
I think just to give him a shout out, I think David Wolf. I think he actually did a video not too long ago. He also does reaction content. I do recall he did a really good video on basically just like the do's and don'ts. Even just simple things as like if you are reacting in this corner, like if I'm over here, the video should be here and I should be looking at the video.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So that was like a really like it just simple things that you sometimes you just watch someone and you're like, okay, so you're looking over here, but the video is like behind your head. It's just certain aesthetic things that instantly people will just be like, okay, there's a million other videos of this. Because back in the day, I guess when maybe even we were getting into it at the very like earlier days of reaction channels, because there was so few content creators to choose from, you could get away with that. But like the bar has been raised, production has gone up so much that now there's so many people doing it that it's like, okay, well, I'm going to probably choose someone who has something that isn't instantly annoying to look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, at the same time, I think what's great about this scene, if we call it that, and the why that we can all have different channels and it's not like a competitive thing, is that every one of us has a unique way that we do things, a unique personality and set of experiences to bring to that. And I don't think there'll be benefit from reaction channels all kind of looking and sounding as slick as each other, because actually, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be interesting for the audience. And maybe actually what people will then want is something that's really basic and stripped back and like just a window into their room, however, without any lighting and the rest, whatever that might be. Like part of what's great, I think, is the uniqueness that we can do with our own content, because we all have a different kind of flavor, I think.
What's that? Rising tide lifts all ships, right? So I know I don't have a lot of time available to watch reactions, but when I react or find a song that maybe I film, or I just see a song that I've already heard and aren't going to film something to, I'll go on and search for reactions to that song, and then I'll see people's names pop up there. No, I want to watch that. So if Drew films something that is the same video I film, and let's just say we had the exact kind of take on it, it's never going to be identical. Him reacting to it and people finding him first is incredibly beneficial to me, because I'm going to show up hopefully on that list right after. And I think we all know that people who watch a reaction to a band or a song don't go, oh, that's it, I've seen one now, I'm done.
Yeah.
They go through like 13 of them before they go, oh wait, it's 4 a.m. and I'm going to throw up and need to sleep. So so it's been, I think it's really beneficial. And I haven't yet to meet anybody as busy as there are that only has 10 minutes available. Maybe today, tomorrow you'll have another 10. So you'll figure it out. You'll watch what you want. And I don't see it as a competitive thing.
That's, man, I totally agree with that. Just like also competition breeds innovation too. So like when there's so many of us too, like there's going to be people that want to do something a little bit different that helps push the reaction community a little bit more. If there's only one person doing metal reactions, the views wouldn't be that good because like it's so incredibly niche. But if there's so many people kind of doing it, then it just tackles such a big audience. So we're all supporting each other. It could be more direct or like indirectly too.
Yeah. And it's weird because I think it's a strange thing. I might watch, let's just say, a video, Steve, that you filmed, and maybe I disagree with the take you have. I don't know how we got to a place in society where disagree means I hate you, burn in hell, delete the video. But that's good. That's great, right? You disagree? Let's talk. Let's create content. I'm not saying we have to create a Kendrick Drake scenario, but there's benefit to different points of views, and people go, they may align with both. You end up in this slightly, hopefully not political realm, but there is something great about alternate viewpoints, whether they collide or not.
1000%. And that is a large reason why we started the Metal Roundup to begin with, because we were getting together, having conversations, disagreeing on points of views about bands or, things going on in the scene, but having civil conversations about it. It wasn't like, well, I just can't even talk to you anymore. It's like, actually, there can be nuance through all of this. And, there's more of an interest, hopefully, in these things having like a public discourse. Because you can learn, even from something you don't agree with, you will learn perhaps a new perspective that maybe you carry with you to the next time you listen to something. Go, oh, actually, I can kind of see this a little bit more now.
Yeah, for sure.
And as a segue, talking about competitiveness and the rest, there was recently a Billboard Music Awards competition, and we saw that Sleep Token, our mutually enjoyed band there, got given an album award, which is great, well done. But for as a hard rock group, now, I've never thought of Sleep Token as a hard rock group, but is that because Billboard Music Awards, I guess you can't have subgenres in large categories, but would they not? Hard rock is so there's a rock category, which is won by what seems like a country singer. Fine. But then there's hard rock, kind of captures everything from Sleep Token to Disturbed. I think it's a bit broad. Is that because of do we even know if that's because of the categorization of music in the States in media, or does that make any sense?
It's just a broad, vague term to loosely categorize a whole bunch of bands.
Yeah.
I find myself in the middle
heavy.
of it. Sorry, I find myself in the middle because I'm not a fan, full transparency, I'm not a fan of the very ultra specific subgenres. I find it to a degree, when it gets to an extreme, it's like if you're putting so much emphasis and time on labeling yourself uniquely, I think that time is probably better spent on making your music make you stand out instead of being Australian sheep farming deathcore. There's a way we can move away from that and be a little.
I love that genre though. That's my favorite.
Are they hard rock? It's Sleep Token, depending on what song or what bar of the song you're listening to, can be jazz, can be hard. They've done this thing where they've purposefully dipped their toes into as many genres as possible. I don't know if that was just creatively how it happened when they were writing, or if they were aware that brings people into songs at different points with different points of view and backgrounds to then explore other bands. It's you get these bands you had the Breaking Benjamins, and you have that category that then is the gateway drug to the heavier thing, and then the heavier thing and the heavier thing. And maybe they're doing that within their own genre. I doubt they gave any thoughts to awards with that, but maybe.
I mean, I suppose My favorite comment I've seen on the internet, by the way, is like, I don't care if they're hard rock or not. All I know is that I'm rock hard for Sleep Token.
Dude, I've
So
seen like I'm a Sleep Token fanboy. I think I've made that very evident. But I don't love everything they've done, but I like most of what they've done, and I'm connected to a lot of the there's Discords and Facebook pages, and as you know, for all these groups, and I don't think I've seen the fanaticism quite to the degree for Sleep like that I see for Sleep Token to a lot of other bands. It's extraordinary. It's aggressive.
It makes sense why the band blew up now. Like looking back at it and just the marketing, the mystery, there's so many things that Sleep Token was just doing differently. And like going back to our reactions to like the offering and stuff, we were pushing this band because like it's so different. It's so like good and special. And people who watched the videos liked it. And like we were getting good views for the original Sleep Token videos. I remember when I did them, like, hey, there's a good audience for Sleep Token videos. And then all of a sudden Take Me Back to Eden came out and just like exploded. It was like
crazy.
It was bound to happen, man.
I got a bone to pick with them, though. I got to tell you this, man.
Let's hear it.
Like I'm such an asshole for this. A long time ago, I was like, I have an idea. And I got, so, when you get high on your own idea, like crazy, and you're like, this is the best. Long time ago, I DM'd them and I was like, I got this idea. I know you don't do interviews, but what if we did an interview? Because like I had put in a lot of videos at that time for Sleep Token. I was quite, I guess, known in the Sleep Token community. And I was like, what if we did an interview and you could do like it through a vocoder or something, and you could do whatever you want to do to keep it like that. Like there's a way to do this without compromising the thing you're doing. And obviously didn't hear back from them. I mean, that was like, it almost made me like him more. I was like, fuck, it's like an X. God damn it. And then I saw like the Drumeo thing come out later and I was like, motherfucker.
They took your idea.
Well,
not
quite.
The same thought. I'm like,
know,
they
I'm
could
joking.
even you could even interview them and they just stare with the mask. There's like no response, and you just make it an awkward interview. Or at gigs in between some sections, they'll have clearly Vessel's voice, not his voice, but like some female voice doing what he's scripted out. So there's a way to call and answer it. The Drumeo thing, I think that they decided that and this is all fucking speculation because who knows. I suspect that's something that two really, really, really wanted to do because he wants to teach people a bit about drumming and like how to understand that. And so that was probably an exception made for the teaching element of it, less like ask us about our music and how we write it. Like they don't really want that side of things, I think.
No, and I don't blame them. I think like who might have criticized the formula? It's worked so far. They're like, sorry, I can't talk to you, some guy in England. I'm busy bathing in money.
Yeah. That makes me feel a little bit better about the DM that I sent Sleep Token as well.
I was going to say, you're not the only one that sent them a DM.
Yeah.
I had this, like, such a segue, but I had this one other little moment that I am actually slightly ticked off about. I did this reaction to a Nightwish song, and I was like, just in midway through, I thought it was funny. I was like, man, this girl can sing the phone book, and I'd listen. And everyone was like, ha 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 ha. And then years later, and I'm talking years later, she's on some floors on some like singing show, and they're like, we think you've got such a great voice, you could sing the phone book, and people would listen. And then they gave her a phone book and she's like singing it, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is insane. But it was funny to watch anyway. If I could, I'm sure it had nothing to do with me, but I got an ego, so I'll take it.
No, that was you, bro. That was you.
Yeah, no, that happens. I called like a Silent Planet homework core once, and then this I forget what news company called it, but like they were calling it homework core as well. I'm like, hey, that was me.
That's too specific. That has to be you.
People were tagging me though, at least. So
yeah,
that's the thing, man. Like, I mean, we go back to the reaction scene in general. It's like you never really know who's watching. Sometimes some shit will just blow your mind, and you're like, what? Why? And like, how? But you literally just never know. Even if your video has like 500 views, which like you might be a little bit disappointed by, but like those, like 10 of those people could be like really significant people that you like look up to or whatever. It's just,
yeah.
Who knows? It's pretty fun.
I was talking
Yeah.
to a concert photographer friend of mine. He's talking about, getting into it and the rest. He's like, the real crux of it that you hope to never lose sight of is that even if you go to a small gig, local band, no one's going to see these photos. You never know that you might end up taking a photo that one person cherishes as the defining thing that makes them think of that amazing night they had in that one venue that actually meant a lot to them. You have no idea the impact of what you do in any industry, in any walks of life, and the things you do. So, I try and increasingly. I had a moment today when I was kicking myself in a weird way. I was like, I used to think, and I still do. I'm still trying to keep myself in this level. It's like if any video of mine gets 100 views, I'm like, great. Some people watched it, they've enjoyed it, and it's funny how easily now it's like, if it's in the first hour, this isn't 100 views. I'm like, oh man, this video is not going that well.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's happened? Yeah. Like, actually, you have no idea who those 100 people are. If there's 100 total over time. If there's 10 people that watch it, you have no idea what they might have got out of that. It's kind of trying to keep on that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the real moments that kind of like puts everything into perspective, which I don't get many of because of just geographically being in Ireland, is like live shows. Like, I haven't been to a live gig since, I think, Tesseract, maybe back in like January of 2024. So like pretty much an entire year ago now at this point. But I went to the Currents and Resolve gig on Sunday night, just gone, and that was a really weird experience. Like, I've had people come over before. Like, Ireland's a small country, and like you might get the odd people, but there was a lot of people that came over and were like trying to buy me a drink and shit. It was just a weird experience. So like, even that's what I mean. Like, even if it's just 10 people, like if you put that into perspective of even if 100 people watch your videos, like, it's when you go to a event, like 10 people coming over and saying hello is like the most insane thing in the world. But then if you look at a video that has like 5,000 views, which is still like a significant amount of views, when you meet like even one person at a show, that really triggers that whole like, okay, don't be so hard on yourself if a video doesn't do like well, It's just a perspective thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not just, it's not numbers, it's people at the end of the day. And
yeah.
what I love about the fact that as soon as you said it was in Ireland, I was like, what probably happened, what might have happened in your mind is like, they come over like, hey, are you Jew? And you're like, here it is. Yeah, I am. How you doing? They're like, I know you're a cousin because it's fucking Ireland.
Yeah. No, it was, there's a few of those moments where, like, I literally, funny you say that, because at the Tesseract show, I literally bumped into my cousin who I didn't even know liked Tesseract.
There we are.
There you go. Yeah. So you're spot on with that one.
Yeah.
But no, it's fucking great. Like, it was the first time I'd met someone from my Discord community as well. Shout out to Selena.
Oh, wow.
Like, because I've met people that like just watch the content before that might leave the odd comment, but it was someone who like I actually can like now put a face to the name. I've seen pictures and stuff, but actually shaking someone's hand and saying hello is just, that was such a sick experience. So really, really fun.
You would be silly to think that your videos are the most important thing in the world, and you'd be very silly to assume they mean nothing. And I think, like you're saying, you meet people, and I mean, I'm sure you've all gotten very kind, probably a mixture of insane people messaging you, but then also people who are like, you need to know how what you do affected and changed me for a positive thing. And I'll give you an example of that. I got a message from a lady who I'd never spoken to her before, and she just sent me, I can't remember where it was. I think it was might have been Discord, might have been a DM or something. And she said that her husband passed away. At that time I was doing daily videos, and it basically destroyed her world. And she said, this is like, she didn't know if she was going to be able to live. She couldn't bring herself to shower or eat. And she said that because my videos came out at exactly the same time every day, she enjoyed watching them prior to this happening. She carried on watching them, and she started building a routine around that particular video going live. It didn't matter about the band or what it was really. It had nothing to do with the video, but it was, I'm going to get a cup of coffee and make sure I'm ready to watch the premiere. And after that, it became, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, watch the premiere, and then I'm going to shower. And this routine was built around getting back into a day-to-day structure. And I thought it was phenomenal. It was like the nicest thing. I actually like goosebumps now talking about it, because I'm not, my brother says I'm about as deep as a puddle, but that's like, it's hard for that to not affect you. It's like a really nice thing. And then you get the alternate side of things where I get a guy send me an email with a very well-researched list of products off Amazon in different ways that I should end my life, and descriptions on how to do it, because I quote unquote ruined his song or something. And I was like,
what?
So much work went into this email. And I was like, that's wild that you spent this, whether you believed anything would come of it or not, you put effort. I'm like, if you just put that into your life, you get like a great result.
That feels like a cry for help. That person needs help.
Well, most of the people, I've said this before, but I think a lot of people who just say wild shit on reactions or anything, like there's a lot of people already struggling, sufficiently struggling. Doesn't matter what it's with. And they feel better when people look at them. One of the easiest ways to get people to look at you is to say an outlandish thing. So you often don't take it to heart. You just leave it be and just know that they're probably, it's a desperation tactic. Which I'm sure this was. I didn't respond because I didn't see any benefit or gain from that, other than still, but it can be, internet can be a wild place, which would be my other tip for reactors coming up. If you're very young, turn the comments off. Just make the content.
Just don't look. Yeah. There's been a couple of them. Like now and then I'll respond to things that are like wildly critical of things that don't really make sense. And what I find is if you answer with kindness, they dissolve. And they might be like, sorry, man, I just had a shitty day.
I didn't know you.
Like,
I didn't think you'd see this.
That happens. Yeah.
I didn't think you'd see this. That's one I get a lot.
Yes.
Like if I say,
I'm so sorry. Hey, man, thanks for the videos. I'm like, oh, now you're thanks for the videos. Like,
But like, is it any different to watching a football team or like I like rugby, watching a rugby team and I'm sitting on the couch with a bag of chips shouting at some fucking athlete because he's not running fast enough?
Yeah.
Some absolute Hercules. You're like, run faster. Listen, the wisdom that comes out of you, Chase, I could listen to you all day.
That's all bullshit's made up.
That's all right, shit. Never mind. I'm over it. No, that's amazing, man. The other thing I wanted to chat about, in the world that we're in, did any of you watch much Finn Mckenty content? Because he's recently seemingly kind of quit YouTube entirely. He was very prominent doing the punk rock MBA, and he had his own channel as well, basically looking at bands in the rock scene, new metal scene, and the rest, and making videos about their history and the rise and fall of various bands. It was really interesting, very well informed content. And he's now seemingly quit YouTube. And in an interview with was it Jesse? Jesse
Ali.
He was saying that he's delighted he doesn't have to, because he like doesn't like music, and so he's so pleased he doesn't have to make any videos about music ever again. It's just like, whoa, that was wild to me.
I don't know this person, but it sounds a whole lot like Mark.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. No, I'm not familiar. I know the name. I know the punk rock MBA, and I've just clicked on the profile. I definitely know his face. I've seen him. I've seen him loads, but I don't know his content, so I'm not really sure what it is. Or
he's one of the OGs of just like music discussion around like punk and metal. Like he influenced some of my channel too, like with thumbnails and actually, having honest opinions. But yeah, he's taking a lot of heat. He's always been controversial. He's a very controversial figure.
That's what I figured. Because I see people mention him sometimes, and that's often what it is that it's like it's a harsh take.
It is. Steve actually interviewed him, so I'm curious to know what Steve's thoughts are.
I did. He was on my podcast earlier in the year. I was delighted about it. Well, I really like his take. They are, difficult, hard opinions at times, but I think he measures it out pretty fairly. I'm like, this would be a good conversation. And early on in our conversation, he's like, I don't really listen to any of that music anyway. Like, so I'm there going, why are we chatting? Because I have a whole bunch of questions about rock music that you clearly don't want to talk about.
I ask this respectfully, but is that, do you feel that's a gimmick, or is that like a real thing? I don't know. Is why I'm asking.
Which part is the gimmick or the real thing?
Like, I don't like music. I hate me, or like I don't listen to that music. Do you think it's a character? Sorry, a character is probably better.
I think
country.
He does like music. I think he's deliberately poking the bear by saying, I don't like music at all. Because he has been on record with saying, he likes K-pop more than he does like rock. And he he clearly was influenced and enjoyed the music of like Suicidal Tendencies, like old school punk rock, I think he's into. But maybe he now no longer likes music because of all of the heat he's taken from people relating to his content, that maybe he wants now space from the music world entirely to sort of cleanse himself of that entire, like, seemingly quite toxic environment he's ended up with from a lot of the folks on YouTube because of, I think, the toothed way that he might deliver some of his very honest, sometimes very fair feedback on things. The delivery might put people off, and then he gets a whole bunch of vitriol back, and then that becomes a very challenging situation. So perhaps there's a bit of a defense mechanism in there. But equally, he's a business focused dude, and it may be that he built his entire thing genuinely seeing a gap in a market, and with his business mind on, well, I'll just research these bands from Wikipedia, make these videos, not care about it, but get enough money that I can not do it anymore or something. But I just what amazes me, but everyone's different, is that I know from my earlier escapades in the world of Nightwish or Avenged Sevenfold that I could not keep doing videos on that if I didn't enjoy it. I just couldn't. But that's, again, speaks to how different we can all be, and it's all fine. I don't actually think it's a problem for someone to make videos about metal and not be into it. If that's what they choose to do, it's fine. You can not watch if it does bother you. But also, I learned some good things from his videos. I think it's fine. And the beauty of the online content world is we can all choose to do our own thing, and people will gravitate to us or not. And I don't think he has to do anything in particular. I just think it's an interesting take.
I don't think there's longevity in that, though, if you're not doing anything that you're passionate about. He's bound to burn out. It's all about optimization and just trying to meet his financial goals. He's very honest about that. So once he did it, he quit. But I don't know. It was bound to happen. You could tell he did not like his content for a while, too. He was just doing it he kept milking the new metal videos. He doesn't even care about new metal. So... But man, he's taking a lot of heat still. On Twitter, people are celebrating. I see it everywhere. People are so glad to see him gone.
It also falls in line very much so with this is not just reactions, but content creators in general. Come a certain time of the year, a lot of creators announce their departure from YouTube and content, and they're back in 3 months. It's a vacation.
Not sooner.
I'm not saying that. So with him, it may be that he is genuinely he's created this universe that he's no longer happy fueling, if you will, and decided he's done with it. And if he met his objective, then good for him. I don't. If I watch a video, whether it's any of yours or anybody, and I don't like a particular thing, I don't have an urge in me to tell you I don't like it. In the same way I wouldn't go into a store and pick up a candy bar and go, fuck this flavor, I hate it. It's well, then don't buy it. Just leave. You don't have to tell the person.
That was kind of Finn Mckenty videos, though.
And you tweeting Hershey's going, unacceptable. It's okay.
he would at least explain why he hated the chocolate, though. That was him.
You're kind of making me want to watch his stuff now.
It's really interesting. It's genuinely fascinating stuff. But yeah, I think there's my focus very much is, I think it might be similar to yourselves, Chase, where it's you do this because you want to enjoy it. And I think that's the essence of how all of us got into this. And if you want, my goal is to never quit. I never want to have a video where I'm even teasing it let's speak about the channel, we're done. Because I'm only doing this in a way that is going to be sustainable forever. That's my plan. That is my goal. And if it isn't, if I'm feeling that burnout, I'm going to change something. And it might be to have a new perspective of, you know what? I'm just going to now do country pop. If that's what's going to make it sustainable and fun for me, then I will do that. It's very unlikely that that's going to happen. But that's you should tailor what you're doing. If you want to be sustainable, do something that brings you with joy. And as soon as it doesn't bring you joy, change. When there's a lot of metalcore that sounds the same, cover some other music.
That's what I've been doing, yeah. Less deathcore, a little bit less metalcore lately.
And there's original content, right? Which is, I know probably a lot of people who, it helps with regards to the copyright side of things. And you've all got names in the industry where if you had a particular view on something, I would click it and watch it. I respect your contribution, and I've watched enough videos from all of you to know that I either like, or even if I disagree, I'm still interested in what you're saying. So there is that. And I think that's probably one of the ways to move forward, but it's hard because you have someone who's hitting you up going, when's the next, name a band, Anchor, whatever. When's the next Anchor reaction? And you're like, when I get to it, I guess, and they'll hang around so long as there's other reactions. But the minute you create a video that is, here's what I think is right and wrong with the industry, it's difficult. It's difficult to get, especially if there's a financial dependency. It's very difficult to get the traction on it.
I feel you. Talking about other things about in the burnout universe, looks like Bring Me the Horizon might be taking a hiatus soon. They've been hitting it pretty hard in the whole next gen world, and Ollie was saying he's fried, I think was the phrasing he used. So they've got a bunch of gigs and festivals next year, and then they're probably going to stop for an indefinite amount of time. Thoughts, Drew?
I saw. Oh, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they've seemingly just been going like non-stop since, I know it was before the pandemic as well, but I've been really locked in with the bands. I kind of got into Bring Me with, I actually, I was going to bring this up earlier, but we somehow come back around to it. But like one of my ex-girlfriends when I was like literally like 13 or 14 used to love Bring Me the Horizon back in their older, like, I guess, deathcore days or whatever. And this was way before my metal arc, before I realized I liked the genre. And I actively disliked the genre back then. And she was so into Bring Me the Horizon. And like, it would have been so cool if I hadn't got into them, because I would have been such an early like adapter of their sound.
Wow.
But like, yeah, I mean, seemingly they would just, because I remember she would always like be playing them. I'm like, turn that shit off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, yeah, like, because this is literally like 15 plus years ago now at this point. And yeah, then like obviously during the pandemic, I think I heard Ludens for the first time. I think that was my first introduction when they dropped that, which was just so different to what I'd been listening to at the time. And then fell in love with the band, and then they brought out the Post-Human album, and then their more recent album as well. So they've just been non-stop. So like you said, take a break. Like, people are it's gonna still, like, they've got such a ridiculous audience now that they can just go away for 5 years if they wanted, and they'd be even bigger when they come back. Like, there's no rush on anything, you know. I don't mind. I can wait. I actually prefer not getting an album like every year from a band. You know, give us a bit of time to actually build up an appetite again. So yeah, take some time. Who cares?
It's like, also like, only they know what they set out to achieve and what else they want to do. Like, that's why people get so mad when bands change their sound. And I get it. You build an emotional attachment, and then you want them to make the same album for the next 10 years. And realistically, for most bands, at least bands that I've had the privilege of being able to speak to, if they do not evolve, whether we like it or not, if they do not change and challenge and excite themselves with something new, then those bands will stop existing, because they need to keep, certainly bands that have been around for a long period of time, if they don't keep evolving in whatever way they see fit, it's like, you may not be on board yet, or you may struggle with a new particular sound of a band, but is that better than no band at all?
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And like, actually, even though your impulse may be like, I want more of this sound, if they come out with another album with the same sound, you'd be like, nah.
Yeah, then you moan at them for that. So it's like,
exactly, can't win. So the only way to win is to follow their own creativity, what's going to fill them with joy and make it sustainable. Because it's the same as what we're doing.
Has there ever been a band that you guys have liked over the years where they've drastically changed their sound and you still love the music today? That could be Bring the Horizon, but is there like another example?
That's a good question. It's drastically changed over the years.
I got mine, which Thrice is my favorite band, because like I've kind of grown up. I've grown up with them.
Yeah.
And like, I like their more mellow stuff now. And like, they're still such a good rock band.
I mean, there's lots of bands that I like, bands that I love. I don't know how much, I'm obsessed with He's Legend. It's like one of my favorite bands.
Oh, and, great shout out.
I got to see him live, and the singer's voice changed over the course of 2 different albums tremendously. The guy was just, I don't know if he was smoking like 12 packs a day or whatever happened, but that alternative rock and roll twang to the harder side of music is just, well, Every Time I Die were phenomenal at it, and there were a couple guys doing it at the time, but when his voice changed, that was like, sit back in your chair like, what the hell? They get a new singer? Like, I had to go and check if they got a new singer. That sounds like him. But I can listen to all those albums back to back. It wouldn't bother me at all. I think there is like a difference between an adjustment period, like a shock, because that's when you're sitting going, do I like it? Don't I like it? You go, I haven't switched it off, so I think I do.
Yeah.
I can't think of one, because no one changes their sound that drastically, I think. You know, they might go in directions where their new albums come out, you're like, I'm not really feeling this album as much, but like I did remember I've had like an album that I didn't gel with as much, even though actually the sound didn't change that much. I just think the songwriting wasn't as good. And oddly, actually, I'm going to say it again to remember, because their album You're Welcome has taken universal heat pretty much from the inside, being like, it's bland and boring and poppy, whatever. One of my favorite albums of them, and I came on board during the Homesick era. I love that album. I think it's great like heavy pop songwriting, which obviously I fucking love.
Yeah.
But I love the early days of I Did Remember. I've loved every album that they've done, to the extent that I walked out the aisle after getting married to one of their songs from the City of Akala album. Like, I fucking loved it, remember. And they've changed their sound, and it's good.
Just a quick one. I've got about 5 minutes left before I have to jump, but I do want to say this as well. I know the album you're talking about, and I know they got a lot of flack. I quite liked it as well. And I had the opinion a bit like when people go watch the new Jurassic Park and they go, I didn't like it. I'm like, what do you mean? Did it have fucking dinosaurs? You knew, like, it does what it says on the tin. You knew what you were walking in. Like, same with Data Remember. It's like, it's going to be catchy. It's going to be this. And I'm joking with it. Like, I understand there was change to the musical direction of how they approached the same theme. But I was a big fan of it. I mean, a band that I really liked, especially when I was younger, who I believe changed, would probably be My Chemical Romance. I think going into from like, so it wasn't as dramatic a change, but going into the more theater-based concept album style from what was Vampires Will Never Hurt You seemed like a big change for me, and I was fully on board with it.
Yeah, and the album after the Black Parade as well was very different. And I liked completely different.
Never actually listened to it.
Yeah, I didn't gel with it, but it's fine. I wasn't mad. They could do what they want. They've given me 3 Cheers of Sweet Revenge. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my album. That's my album.
Good. Wicked. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, Chase. I could talk to you for so much longer. You're a really interesting dude. I really enjoy what you're doing in the content universe. And maybe before we go, who's a new band that you discovered that you think people should check out? That's maybe not on the radar enough.
I don't know. I didn't discover them this year, but like Ice Nine Kills for me are like Boulder Bear band for me. I love horror. I love that kind of music. I went to see them live in Nottingham, and the show was, it doesn't matter what side stage you give them, they're going to kill. Probably them. Bill Murray was one I discovered this year that I'm blown away by. I just love it. And then, I don't know. I saw, was it Leprous as well? They're pretty good.
Good,
so,
yeah.
I'd say go check him out if you can get to a live show. And then Earthside, but I'm biased because I'm friends with Jamie, so I'd say go check him out.
There we go.
Nice.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Chase. Massively enjoyed our conversation. And we'll make sure to put some links in the description to your channel as well. People do go check out Chase's content. If you enjoyed this conversation as well, make sure you subscribe to the Metal Roundup. There'll be more of these episodes in future. In fact, our next episode will be rounding up the year that was 2024. So we'll see you for that one. Thanks again. Take care, folks.
Peace.